at the heart of it, we make things that hopefully aid in and inspire creative life. And we're using sustainable materials, and we're making these things for ourselves first, using them, tweaking them, improving them. And then when we feel like it's something that we want to share with others, then we start making them for others.
Thank you to everybody who has subscribed recently. Don't think that we don't notice. We love the views, we love the comments, we love all of the new subscribers, and we love seeing that this show is growing. If you like this show, the best thing you can do to support it is hit that subscribe button, and if you want to take it one step further, please share any and all episodes. Thank you. Let's get on to the show. Welcome to Peg and Awl, the Kintsugi Chronicles, here on the I Am Not Okay channel, where we gather our broken pieces in search of gold. My name is John Bear.
I'm Jeremy Palmer.
And today we are joined by two very special guests, Margaux and Walter Kent.
Welcome.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
What's up, Margaux?
Yeah.
Feel free to come in. So, Margaux and Walter are artists at heart who have created a life and a business together. They have two beautiful children. If anybody were to click on this episode when it goes up on YouTube, what do you guys want people to understand and know about the mission of Peg and Awl, the name of your business?
Well, I think at the heart of it, we make things that hopefully aid in and inspire creative life. And we're using sustainable materials, and we're making these things for ourselves first, using them, tweaking them, improving them. And then when we feel like it's something that we want to share with others, then we start making them for others.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, very well said. Anything to add?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What were some of the first things that you found yourselves starting to make for yourselves and use?
Well, when I met Margaux, she was making books and jewelry, and she carries her books around with her all the time because she just journals and writes all the time.
Beautiful.
She had one when we met, and I asked her if she could show me how to make a book. She invited me to her house. I came over, and she had all of her supplies, her book supplies, her paper and stuff all over the floor. And immediately I was like, oh, I'm a cabinet maker. I can make you some cabinets so you can put all your supplies inside the cabinets, and then you have a nice work surface.
You can stand up and work.
And so right then there was a collaboration going on, and it really stemmed from, that natural process of like seeing a need and then trying to fill that need. Kind of flows through all of what we do. And because we're always like constantly being distracted by new things, the needs are always changing as well. So the things that we are making are always changing.
Okay.
Yeah.
He did make me those cabinets, and I did continue to work on the floor.
Yes. Excellent. I ended up using the cabinets.
Interesting. So, all right, let's dig into your backgrounds a little bit. How did you guys meet?
It's not as fun of a story.
Not as fun of a story.
I was working on helping redo the inside of a bar in Northern Liberties, and it was still unfinished. And my sister, who was the manager of the bar, wanted to throw my other sister a party. So she's like, hey, let's just use the bar as the venue.
Sure.
So it was this unfinished bar, and it was my sister's birthday party, and one of her work friends invited Margaux. So she came along. That's where we met. Yeah.
You guys met at a bar. Oh,
Yeah.
Man.
But there's an added element that it wasn't an open bar.
That's true.
It was very exclusive.
Well, see how the story came out of that.
It was very exclusive at the time.
Yes.
Margaux,
tell me a little bit about, so why do you carry your journal around all the time? Obviously to like write things down, but like why?
Yeah, I think it started, I've always carried a journal around. It started to just capture things or to capture ideas because they can be pretty fleeting. But I think also to hide from people. If for whatever reason, it's a kind of a weird place to start. But if I was in a crowd and didn't prefer the crowd, I would just hide in my journal. So I feel like there are a lot of entries where it was just comfort found here. But really, I mean, there's so much to, especially at this point, there's so much to experience every day, and every step I feel that there could be something to catch that needs to be notated or drawn. I like to draw from nature and from the world, so I always have it with me.
When did you start making your own books?
When did I start making my own? I think so. I went to Europe just after high school, and I got a journal there. I was in Italy, and I got a handmade journal. It wasn't really handmade. The exterior was handmade, but the inside was not. And I loved the book. It had a really cozy quality, but it was really poorly made. So it fell apart, and but it was pretty cool because the cover fell off of the book, the text block. So I got to see just how a book was made.
Reverse engineer.
So just kind of, but I never thought of how, I mean, I made books all the time when I was a kid, but staple books. I did always make books. So I think I must have had that inherent interest in books and bookmaking, but seeing that book come undone was really kind of the moment for me.
That was the spark.
That was the spark. And actually there were two sparks, because at first I was like, oh no, this book is, as much as I loved it and as much as I didn't love it, when it fell apart, I tried to find a new one. And my mom's partner is Italian, and I found a lot of shops in Venice, and we were just trying to track down the shop. So he finally got a hold of the shop that made these, and they were just so much more money at that point. So I was like, okay, I'm going to learn to make it. So then it began, and I'll stop there. I can keep going about books.
No, that revealed a lot. So let's dig into. Have you guys? I mean, I guess the answer would probably be yes. But when did you notice that you were creatives, Margaux? We'll start with you.
When did I notice? I don't remember not being. I mean, I always made. Is that like what your family environment was like? No, well, my mom was a very talented artist naturally who did not pursue art. And my dad always said that he has no artistic ability, which I disagree with. But
okay.
So he always tried to encourage my mom to make art, and she just didn't. She ended up getting a scholarship for math, went to school doing math, and they did stuff together. But so my dad was a real encourager. In fact, I mean, I've always made things, but I always think that I'm. How do I word this? I don't have a natural talent like my mom or like Walter to just.
That's not true.
Well, I think maybe in a more classical way to be able to represent the world with.
I think your driving force is your curiosity of wanting to just make.
And I have a very childlike approach to what I make and what I do. Yeah. So I don't know what the word is, because I don't want to say talentless, but it's easier to say I did not have a natural talent. You wouldn't just look at my work and be like, she's a
aptitude. We could use that word even
for like a skillful application of paint and graphite onto a page to represent what's in the world. Mine was way more interpretive, but my dad was always encouraging me to do it. So so I only ever remember making things out of trash, found materials. I would make like homes. I was definitely a tomboy. I didn't have doll houses, but I had like animal homes that I'd make, whether they were stuffed animals or earthworms. I was always building things out of trash for these creatures.
Interesting. Walter?
I don't know that I can think of a time when I wasn't making something. And I definitely was surrounded by it. My dad's a cabinet maker and does remodeling and stuff. My mom is very artistic. I remember her working out murals in our bathroom and doing stencil work and stuff like that. And I was homeschooled, not for all of my school years, but from 6th grade on. So it's always been a hands-on experience with education, as well as just, making dinner every night for, 12 kids. So we all pitched in and were very hands-on with everything that we did.
Yeah. Okay. Did you guys kind of then... I'm sorry, did you have anything that came out of that?
No.
Oh, okay. You like to make things. Did you refine that by going to school, or how? Like, did you go to university and learn how to take it to the next level, or no?
No, I didn't.
A different level.
I wanted to.
Okay. It just wasn't in the cards or something.
Yeah, so I started drawing. I mean, I always was drawing, but I started getting what I thought was good when I was like 13 or 14. And so then I had a lot of positive feedback from people around me, and I was like, this is really what I want to do. I want to go to school and become an artist, a fine artist.
The environment, okay.
A painter.
Yes.
So being one of 12 kids, that my parents weren't going to
That's
be able
tough.
to pay for school. So then I started looking at other options, and the military was one of them. So I joined the National Guard to say, okay, I'll use the National Guard as a vehicle to get to school.
Okay.
And just through the course of events, like I actually never went to college. I was in the National Guard for seven-ish years. Was deployed to a bunch of different areas, places. I did enroll and finish maybe 1 or 2 semesters at a community college. But then Margaux and I met within the last year of my service.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Year and a half or 2 years.
It was the last year, but then you were stop lost.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. I was stop loss to go to Iraq, and then I came back. And we started Peg and Awl like pretty much right after that. So yeah, so just the course of events, I just didn't go to school, and I don't really regret that. I feel like I kind of go in and out of saying, oh, there's certain skills or certain things that I wish I learned, and
There's
I
still
feel
time.
like there's still time. There's still time, and I feel like some sort of academic environment would have helped me with that, or kind of pushed me in that way.
Okay.
But I also feel like just knowing that there's something that I want to learn is probably better, and just having that desire to learn it.
Yeah.
YouTube Academy.
I was going to say, in today's environment, literally YouTube. Hey, all right, YouTubers.
Yeah.
All right.
But also that environment of like having structured and focused attention and just time for learning something is something that I don't ever have. So I feel like both of us are very just like all over the place and want to learn a million things. So I feel like a school or college environment, maybe I'm, making something out of nothing, but I feel like that kind of environment would be really awesome to be able to say, okay, for the next 4 years, I'm going to focus on becoming a better painter or whatever it might be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anything out of that? No?
Okay.
Cool. So
Feel free.
how then you've combined forces, if you will, sort of the natural skills. Did you go to college or school for?
I did.
Okay. Bring that out.
Well, I went for 10 years on and off. I never graduated. School is definitely not my favorite. I love learning and I love classes, but I did not like that.
The environment.
Yeah, it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I went to an art school. There was a ton of partying, and I just like to make stuff. So maybe that's why I started hiding in my journals. So yeah, that was my experience. But I am always taking classes. I feel like I'm a serial class taker. I do that now.
Yeah. So how do you get to the education that you want now? Is it through YouTube? Is it through people that are doing what you want to do and they have courses or something? Or you just ask if you can go to their shop and learn from them?
People, I feel like now, especially with drawing, there's so many classes offered online. So it's really just looking around and finding stuff. Not necessarily people doing what I want to do. I think that's what you just said, but just people who are doing interesting things that have different perspectives on how to make marks.
Interesting. Okay. So then you talked about when you got close to coming out of the National Guard, you guys met, and Peg and Awl started pretty much right after that. I saw the origin story. It started in your old apartment or your house?
Yeah, in our house.
Our house, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about that origin. So
Yeah.
was it just the bookmaking that was the start, or was there more things?
Søren might have been the start.
That was the first thing we made.
That's the third. Well, you made a beautiful thing there. There you go. All right.
So yeah, Søren was born, and then Walter was stop lost. He went to Iraq when Søren was 6 months old.
Yeah.
For a year. And so I was just home with Søren. My memories have us reading a lot and walking a lot. It was interesting. But then Walter came back, and we started shortly, like 2 months, I think. We officially started the business.
Yeah.
We started making things as soon as he got home. But 2 months or so in, or a few months.
Yeah,
September,
I think I got back in September and we
January.
officially launched the Etsy shop in January.
Yeah.
But we had been making
We
stuff
were making
for
things leading up to that. Yeah.
What year
But-
are we talking around that time?
2010.
Okay.
It was
Yeah.
2010 when we started, and Walter was working with his dad still. But that's what it was. We started our Etsy shop, and then we got a wholesale order straight away from Spain. And then Walter called his dad and said, "Okay, I think this is
I was at
full
work.
time."
You called me. I was working with my pops, and it was lunch break or something. You called me and like, oh, we got an Etsy order, wholesale order for, I forget what it was, but then I turned to my dad and I was like, I'm
You
quitting.
might need some time. You might need a little time here.
So it kind
That's
of
funny.
took off right away, like a big wholesale
did.
order.
It did
that
take
was,
off right away.
Wow.
It wasn't a huge. I mean, I
What
think
was the
everything's
thing
relative.
do you remember they bought or whatever? What was the thing?
We were making. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit.
Sure,
Before we
yeah.
started Peg and Awl,
Yeah.
I had a shop called the Black Spot Books where I did bookbinding, journals, jewelry.
Was that here in Ambler?
No, that was a different business.
Different
I'm also
business,
a serial
okay.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
So I had a company called the Black Spot Books, and I was doing journals, jewelry, photography, stuff that I still do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I had practice, and my shop was doing well. I mean, it was small, but it was like doing well enough for me for the small situation. So then when we started Peg and Awl, we had that experience, that starting experience. So that really kind of helped us to repel. So we started.
You
we started.
learned a lot about
I
Etsy
learned
shops,
so much.
how to run an Etsy shop,
Yeah.
customer service, and your businesses before that.
Yeah,
certainly helped.
and like Etsy SEO, and also Etsy had just come to the house. I don't know when that was. I need tissue. Etsy had just come to our house to do a video on the. I think it was Black Spot
It's
Books.
on the Black Spot
Yeah,
Books.
so we definitely had like a little momentum.
We were
a little-
riding on the tails
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
The Black
So
Spot
then,
for sure.
but the thing that was successful was a tub caddy, like a bathtub caddy.
Interesting.
I had been wanting one my whole life, and when I was younger, I had like 2x4s that I often got splinters on that I would just put over the tub and then leave in. My mom was like hated these pieces of wood in the bathroom, so they're just like not nice things over the tub. And and I had done research. There was like there were plastic ones, metal ones. There was just never a nice wood tub caddy. So I asked Walter to make it for me when we met. In addition to the cabinet.
It took me going to Iraq and coming back to do it, but
Yeah, and also, I don't know if it was before or after you got back, we had amassed a bunch of wood. We lived in Fishtown, and there was a lot of reconstruction in the neighborhood. So people were tearing down buildings, and there are dumpsters full of old growth wood everywhere.
Yeah.
And bricks, and we would,
and joists and
yeah,
all that
so
good
much stuff people would
yeah.
throw in the. I mean, it was only 2010, but people would dump it
Right.
and spend money to dump it. It's wild. So we would always go and fill up Walter's moldy old truck with materials, and then one day he
This was
came-
before,
This was
actually.
before because
Yeah.
he was working with his dad. He came home from work and he would just like
weave
wind
through all the neighborhoods
yeah, and look for
see what was
dumpsters.
happening.
Right.
Yeah.
See what's in there.
Either brick house being torn down, a pile of bricks that we could reclaim, or old joists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one day these guys were like, I see you picking here all the time. Can we just bring the dumpster to your place?
Usually the construction sites were empty because I was coming home after work, and they must have been working late one night, and I'm shuffling around in the dumpster, and I see these heads poke out the window like, what are you doing down there?
Dolphin.
And so I tell them, and they're like, do you want us to it was like a truck, a dump truck that they had, a pretty big one. And so they're like, want us to drive the truck over to your spot and you can have it for the weekend. It was a Friday afternoon, I guess. And so they just drove it over, and we had the pick of the litter
Access
for the
to
entire
the pick of the shit.
yeah, that's true.
Which was amazing. I mean, this was like old growth wood that's been growing longer than our country has been a country. So it's pretty incredible to think that people. I mean, now it's much more common. Not that it wasn't common then, but it wasn't. It was uncommon enough for them to find it more financially beneficial for them to give it to
Dump
us.
it. They didn't know what they had on their hands.
Got it. Got it.
Now
For
everybody
sure.
knows that they have something.
And it's so expensive, but we really got to start out that way with free materials. We already had a camera. We had a bathtub. I was pregnant with Silas, and Walter took some photographs of me like reading in the tub or writing in the tub, and we put that online. It was something. It went. The photograph went viral.
It
The
did,
product
yeah.
went viral. So it just opened us up to that wholesale account, and also just. Not just wholesale account. That was like the big thing where it's like we're making stuff in bulk. But yeah, so we didn't have to lay any money out in advance. It was like 20 cents or something to do a listing on Etsy and then putting the time in. And we're
Having
used to
an
putting
idea,
our time in,
yeah.
having an idea.
Super interesting. You left an opening there to talk about serial entrepreneur, and as a self-professed journaler who kind of doesn't love people sometimes, how did you start a business and then have to be around people to sell your stuff, and how did that come to fruition? And let's start with, what was the first business that you found yourself in?
Oh, it's not that I don't love people. I have to say that. It's just that I can be very uncomfortable and awkward, and I don't.
Is it
I don't
a
want
kind of person or just a vibe that you get?
Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think there's always something to get there's always conversation to be had with strangers and just, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I think it was more my discomfort and especially with crowds, I would just like to hide it. So
got it.
that's that. My first business, I probably never had a name for it, but when I was really young in elementary school, I would make art and bracelets and sell it in school. So I would sell, I was 5 or 6 and I would sell paintings door to door. I would walk around with my palm-sized paintings and people would open the door and they'd give me a nickel or whatever for a painting. So that was, I don't know if that's a business, but that was my first dip.
First foray into
which is art and business. It's so strange. I've always done that.
Well, okay, so how does that, because usually those two things don't marry, they don't jive, they're sort of juxtaposed. Was it like a want for money and a love of art or like, not that you wanted money, but like obviously you've learned that money was a tool, and if I had money I could make more things and do stuff. How did that come about, where you started to learn more about business or as much about business and art?
That I don't remember, but my dad and mom had a business. They had an insurance company, so I am sure. And my dad he had they got divorced when I was pretty young, and then my mom went off to work at another insurance company. But my dad had such freedom. His business used to be in Philadelphia, and then he moved it to where we live, to the town where we live, so he could be closer to us. He would always take us out of school or take us skiing after school. Like we would go to, we called it Bell Hill, these local ski slopes. And so we never followed regular rules of time because he ran his own business. And so I guess now I can see it. I can see the benefits of it for sure. But as a kid, I probably just, absorbed that. Mm-hmm. But also he would encourage us to, probably not at 5, but to save money. And to invest. Like when I was young enough, he would always encourage that. So I bet he was talking a lot about this stuff, and I'll have to ask him.
Subconscious came in, and it was just part of the environment that you were in.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, and when you own your own business, especially as partners, they own a business together. Yeah. Her parents did. Like you're talking about it all the time,
right?
And your kids are
comes
there.
up at the dinner table.
Right.
It's
right.
it's not. It's not the thing that you just leave it at work. Right.
I mean, I remember being, and I don't remember much, but I remember being a little kid sitting on the floor in the kitchen and hearing them talking. I remember Blue Cross Blue Shield and things that are hard. I mean, I hate these words. I hate insurance, but I remember the Cobra, and these words were I didn't know what they were. They were just I knew it maybe as a snake, it was more likely, but I would hear them conversing. So I know the conversations happened at a really early age, for sure.
Okay, well,
interesting.
That's a gift. Yeah.
Where my dad has always owned his own business, but he never brought work home. He would put his wallet and his phone and all of his business stuff at the counter.
Well, not his phone.
Right next, well, not his phone, but his pager at that point. Yeah.
The old beeper.
On the counter, right next to the door. And then it was family life after
just
that.
leave it there. And then when I'm outside the house, I can do the business. When I'm inside, it's family time. And
Yeah,
but he
pretty
worked,
traditional.
12 kids
he worked
didn't
all the time.
allow too much option for much else than that.
Right.
Wow.
But he worked all the time. So we saw that. He was always working. He was always busy. So I think that work ethic definitely rubbed off on all of us.
And he was always cabinet making, or
or some form of carpentry.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Wild.
Yeah.
And you started working with him when you were 11.
Yeah, he had a wood shop in the garage, and so I worked with him. Pretty young.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was good. So I'm just gonna scatterbrain, which I do, but that's what Søren and Silas did with us. Søren was 2, and he was tying tags on an anthropology order.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
They're dancing amongst the mountains of products sitting around.
So from one generation to the next, it just rolls, we'll say, downhill. I've been to your house because I have a student here, Katie Marlowe, mutual acquaintance. And one time, was it 2 years ago? I think there was the studio tour, which is coming up soon.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
So it was, I think, when you guys had first opened your studio out there. I guess you spent 6 months to a year renovating it or something, and then I got to come out and meet you guys. But I saw on the walls, because you allowed me to go through your house, where Søren's head would go, and he had this big picture of this whole imaginary world with all of these avenues and all of these things. And I was like, that's what's in this kid's head at 14, 15. Clearly, I mean, it's not just like he went to school and learned that. So, you know, like
Right.
he's soaking that up and it's in his DNA, we'll say, or in his veins. So you guys clearly have created an environment for creativity to be bred. Interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's go to the origins of your first real business, like your LLC, etc. When did you start like actually like having a storefront and stuff like that, or an online storefront or a presence where you were doing it for real, for real?
My first for real LLC was an illegal business.
Excellent.
Hey, IRS, tune out. Yeah.
My cheeks get rosy. Yeah, maybe I won't go into too much
No.
detail.
Your first legal
Why am I getting all
business. Getting a little flush. You have some
Because
nice.
it is it's just funny to think of broadcast. I guess because whatever. I sold CDs,
Oh.
but they're bootlegs.
Hey.
And my feeling was always, I guess I feel as an artist, I guess it could seem like a little scammy to sell that, and maybe it was. I was in a weird world where people all over the world would record things. And now I bump into microphones all the time at shows because anybody could do it and just broadcast it. But you know, stuff would come from Japan and be shrink wrapped and it would smell like cigarettes, like you know, and just like people all over the world. Anyway, it was a weird thing. But my feeling was always, as a music lover, the people who were buying this stuff were the people who loved the band, who would go to the show, who would buy the music, buy the T-shirts. Maybe I was just justifying my business. But anyway, that was my first.
Interesting.
My first legal business. Do you do any editing here?
If there's anything you don't want in, you let me know. And I am the one who edits right now, so I can make sure it ends up on there or
All right.
omit. And I don't want to out anybody. Let's go to like first legal business, or how did you meet Katie? Right. So you said you had a business in Ambler. What was
Yeah.
that business?
And so music also. So I had a record shop, and I met Katie.
He's all into records and DJing and
Yeah, it was records and CDs and vintage clothing. It definitely ballooned, as all things do. I started that business in, maybe 2000.
Holy shnikes.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's 25 years ago anyway.
It's insane. And I had I learned quickly that I would get fined if I renovated the inside of the building without covering it up. So I put up all my old ET sheets from when I was a kid and
Nice.
blocked the windows. And Katie came, which I don't remember this story, which is crazy. I have to check my journals, but now I know it from us telling it. She had made me samosas and brought them in, knowing that we'd be friends, and she was right.
Knowing that we'd be friends.
Yeah,
Seeing
so
the ET sheets in the
seeing the
window.
ET sheets, she's like, "That's my girl."
And you had Søren at
something
that time
here.
or no?
Oh
That
gosh,
was
no.
bef- that was
Sword 17.
pre-kids.
That was pre-Walter.
Pre-Walter.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
BW.
Wow.
So that was I started as a used CD and record shop, and then people would come and the boys would stay and the girls would leave. So I love vintage stuff, so I started a vintage clothing shop in the back, and to just balance out who came through the door and who stayed.
Sure.
And I had that for 5 years. I had a pretty shady landlord. There's always shady stories in my.
Not coincidence.
So that I think I had that. How long did I have that business for?
You said 5 years?
Did I say 5 years?
You
I'm
did.
wondering if
Did I
it's
hear that
2003. I think I said that, but I'm wondering if that's right. It could have been 2000 to 2005. That makes sense.
Okay, 5-ish, we'll say.
Yeah. So because I got weirdly. Whatever. I got weird. Thankfully, I signed a longer lease, but they actually sold the building out from under me, and it was a mistake for me to find out because the buyer called me accidentally. So
Whoops.
there's a lot of shadiness in there, but it was actually great because I didn't need to stay. I feel like life, like now I don't. That might be what marked me at 5 years. Every 5 years, I like to do something different, and so I was really grateful that happened. And then I moved on to other things. But I met so many people during that time, and I traveled a lot during that time. Kind of like now, I would work around the clock. And I also started selling CDs online. So I would travel. I went to the Netherlands a lot because there was a big antique show, and there was also a music and record show. So I would stock up on stuff while traveling. It was not a very I didn't make a lot of money with that
was
business.
not lucrative.
It was not lucrative,
Yeah.
but it fed itself. I was able to travel. I mean, that's the reason to live, right? To be able to earn money enough to travel. And it's so weird. It's like another Margaux, but I would buy this stuff and then I would go to, like an internet cafe and I would put CDs online and they would sell while I was like paying for my whole trip on a daily basis by continuing to work. Then I'd go home and ship everything.
Right.
Okay.
It was so weird, but I got vintage stuff that way, paper stuff. It really opened up my world to bookbinding. I mean, it did. It was the journal thief that started me on my book.
That's
Another story.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was literally my next question was, okay, so we went from 2000 to 2005. We have great little markers here. And before you met Walter or started Peg and Awl in 2010, there's a 5-year gap. And you said you did another thing. What was the next thing?
Yeah, so I remember traveling. I went to the Galapagos Islands, and I went to, where else did I go?
Turtles?
Oh, I did it.
After you close your shop in Amber.
After I closed my shop, and I did this like volunteer program with bears, and there were no bears. That's another whole story. That was in Ecuador, this is all great. Walter never showed up to the shop, which even though he worked in Ambler at the time with his dad, but he would have been a child. So
you guys kind of circled around each other?
We did.
Oh, that's interesting.
Our ages were quite different. So
They still are.
they are still
Yeah, they haven't changed?
different. They're
they're less different.
That's
They're
really-
less
that's
different now?
humiliating.
Okay. Yeah. So you grew up in the Willow Grove area.
Yes. Yeah.
What area did you grow up in, Margaux? Right around here?
Ambler.
Okay, so this is kind of home base
Yeah,
for you guys.
yeah.
You've always circled around it. Super interesting. Walter, I'm going to come over to you, take the spotlight off you for a second.
Let me cool down.
So what were you doing between 2000 and 2010? Was that was most of your Army reserves?
Yeah, I
or-
joined the Army in 2003.
Okay.
So before that, I was working with my dad, and it was National Guard. So I was still working
National
with my dad.
Guard. Apologies.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, mostly just doing historic home renovations.
okay.
Yeah, in the area. We worked at
Yeah.
a house in Ambler actually for like maybe 2 or 3 years
Some
straight.
old houses here, yeah.
Yeah, and we more than doubled the size of the house, as well as redid every single room in the
Put
original
additions
house.
and everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we were there for a long time. And then there was another house in Ambler down the street that we started working on. So that kind of stuff, yeah. I did a lot of stonework. There's a lot of stone houses here. So, I mean, I'm not a mason, but there was one.
Oh, yes, you are.
The one job. Well, maybe now
You're
I
a
am,
stone
but-
wall builder.
Yeah. But there was one job where there was a ton of stonework. And my dad was the general contractor, and he was pricing out and getting prices from stonemasons in the area, and they were coming in like super high and not what he wanted to budget for. So he kind of turned to me like, "Hey, you know how to mix cement?" Because that's what I would do for him in the beginning,
Sure.
like early years. That's why I say I'm shorter, because I was carrying buckets of cement from the point.
Yeah.
Mason tending is not an easy thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Anybody
anyway.
who's done it knows it's not easy.
child
You know
labor.
how to mix cement,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I was like, yeah, I could do it. I was totally in for it. So it was like probably a whole summer. I was rebuilding this entire wall, stone wall, and it was awesome. It was a huge learning experience for me.
All trial and error, or did you
All
sort of?
trial and error. I mean, I was taking past experiences from just working with him, and just an eye for. I mean, I have an attention to detail.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think it just needs patience and attention to detail for almost anything that you do in life.
Anything that you do in life.
Where is that these days?
And the willingness to start over if you need to.
Right.
Yeah.
But I did that for quite some time. And then also, so I was more on the masonry side with his projects, and then I was doing some of the woodworking stuff too. And gradually started taking over, taking more responsibility on, and doing smaller jobs by myself with some of his just guidance. So that's kind of what I was doing for those 2000 to 2010.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That was
Years.
like your. If you didn't go to university, that was like real world university. We'll
Yeah.
say you
Completely.
were just learning on the job and
Right.
rolling from there, honing
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
skills, and yeah.
Right, and we would do additions. We would dig the foundation. My dad did not like to hire people, so we did every single thing from
Yeah.
digging the foundation, pouring the cement, doing the cinder block, building the framing, doing the roofing, doing the outside work, the trim, the windows, all of it.
Did your other siblings assist, or some of
my
them?
brother is just about the same age as I am, and he did help begrudgingly. But it was just, we almost like got childhooded in to this job. And he kind of didn't want to be there. He wasn't there mentally.
Got it. Yeah.
But he needed money, so
Okay.
yeah.
But Walter's leaving out. He also painted. Well, you taught art
That's true.
to
Yeah.
homeschool groups.
Yeah.
and-
So
and you paint it.
I've always wanted to be a fine art painter. I don't know if that's like my goal now, obviously, but well, maybe not obviously, but
yeah.
it's not
One of the
really my
million
goal
things
now.
you
I
wanna
want to
do.
do so many things, right? But then I was like, I really want to paint. So I was painting at the time, and I was homeschooled, graduated, and all my younger siblings were still homeschooled, and they had friends. So I was their art teacher for a little while, and that like maybe was one of the most beneficial experiences for me as far as learning how to communicate what I was trying to understand.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I think I grew more than they did.
I say if you want to learn something, teach it.
Yeah,
Something like
Where
that.
do you fall in the order of the 12?
I share the middle with my brother.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. So I have 5 younger siblings and whatever it would be, 6 older siblings.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot of kids. Were you an only child, Margaux, or do you
No,
have
I have a
brothers and
brother.
sisters? Brother. Okay. Gotcha. Let's bring it back around about 2010. Then you guys start Peg and Awl. You get the big order. What does that look like? So you quit your job and then like just literally like went right home and started making
Yeah.
shower caddies or tub caddies.
Yeah, I mean, we were working every waking hour.
Every waking hour and in every spot in the house.
in every spot
Right.
of the
And the
house,
boys
yeah.
were Silas was born in October of that same year. So
All right.
and,
We were doing art shows as well.
yeah, we were doing art
So-
shows and craft shows.
Yeah, so in the beginning, like almost as soon as we met, we started like doing art together or like mixing our art,
Creating things, yeah.
Yeah,
So we would have shows of our
paintings.
art and
Yeah.
products that
Photographs.
or objects that we made that became Peg and Awl products.
Right.
Yeah, it would all be like one was about the history of gardening in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Can't say that, Philadelphia. What else do we do? Oh, the backwoods kitchen. We did a really weird backwoods kitchen show in Old City at Art in the Age.
And the opening was what, 2 days before
2
Silas
days before
was born?
Silas was born. But we were
Yeah.
walking there and I'm like, we might have this baby. And there were like old forceps, like old medical things were part of it.
We can use these to get the job done. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in a good spot. Yeah, we'll be all right.
Just need a tub or something.
And then
Okay.
after the boys were born, or after Silas was born, we had another show at the Toothless Cat Gallery.
Oh, right.
Where we were just like overwhelmed with business and with young kids, and so it was called The Only Place Left. And we built an outhouse, like an old time outhouse, in the middle of the gallery, and then drilled holes in the outhouse, and then had all of our photographs and paintings on the walls, on the perimeter.
sit on the
So you'd
toilet.
have to sit there because that literally was the only place left to find any space to think.
And see all your things. Yeah. That's genius.
good.
Yeah. Wow. So you guys had like clear vision and why
No clear vision.
no. You had vision that you guys wanted to create art. Clearly it's going, you're artists. Everything is, it's over here, now it's over here, now it's over here. That
Right.
I understand.
Right.
But you knew that you wanted to make things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you had an ability to showcase those things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that is unique.
Yeah.
Right? Because
That's true.
there's people that make things alone, away from people, and they really never see the day of light. You guys, I mean, sure, to make money, but clearly you realized you wanted to make things for a living, so you had to figure out how to get yourselves out there.
That's Margot's superpower. Though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
Even
okay.
though she says she doesn't like being in crowds or.
Well,
I mean, she
sometimes.
has an ability to connect with people and also just you get excited about the possibility of things, and like having a gallery show is exciting, and it's an unknown that you have to somehow like make happen.
Another thing to create.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And also like you love connecting with like-minded people. So
I do.
So, if we're making art, we're going to find people that like art,
right.
or
Yeah, that's
also
the
make
thing.
art.
I think that's the thing that journaling is so good for me, because I'm just. Søren and Silas will say I'm not literal. I feel like I'm so literal because I document my days into my journal, and then it's just an idea. It's something to put in our newsletter, or it's something to make into a drawing, or I'm just taking the reality of what feels like the reality of life to me and putting it out into the world. I laugh because Søren's like, Søren and Silas both say you're anything but literal, but it feels so literal. So it's just interesting trying to break that down. I feel like that's always a challenge, but I do think that it's the literal sharing of my experiences that connect with other people who are also living on this planet. It seems so direct.
So you write a lot. Did you have a blog? Where were you sharing, or were you not sharing that? It was you were writing things and then making things out of the writing that you shared, or were you sharing your poems? Or
the writing was actually, I didn't start sharing writing until very recently.
Okay.
Like very recently.
Okay.
So I think the writing just was a way of what? Distilling.
Getting a clear vision or something.
Something.
Processing
yeah.
ideas
Processing,
and vision
right.
and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
here's what I saw today. Like, sometimes a picture, sometimes words, and like later on you think about it and you're like, oh, you know what? That thing would make a great this or
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it also allows me, I guess, to simply communicate. I mean, like we would, and also Philadelphia is very small. At this time period, like I don't know when Etsy started, but it was relatively new, maybe 2007. Maybe I started in the same year.
There was certainly a burst of people
burst of
starting to
creativity.
make things, craft
Right.
shows
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah.
That's another thing. We did everything. Like, we did every craft show we could find. We always put ourselves out there. We always would say like we did not put our eggs in one basket. We like threw them all over the place.
Sure.
Right.
So and
See
we
what
still do
stuck.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here, right? It's not.
Yes,
it's,
you are.
It's like I love what seems like a disconnect or such estranged worlds coming together, and I think that's the best way to kind of exist.
Yeah,
And
we're sitting in a gym talking about art. Like, how does that happen? Like, what do we create here? Just big biceps, you know. No, like
That's
that's
been inspiration for many people for thousands of years.
Hey, I know somebody in particular that you guys know that likes veiny biceps. She said so, but I won't say her name. So, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, and I think that that's a different kind of medium, and the human canvas is definitely something to work on, and that's a little bit about like what we do here. So I do find it fascinating that you guys. Okay, why are you here? You didn't have to be here. It's not to do me a favor necessarily. I really want to showcase or like an art show. Like what do you, like I asked in the beginning, but like what do you guys want people to understand about Peg and Awl? Maybe that they don't. The misconceptions then. Like, is there any? I know.
it's a big, it's kind of a stumper. I think, I don't know if I have an answer. It might just like fall out and it might be wrong, but
Take it.
I always think that when you engage with people who are not in your world, there's a lot more to learn and a lot more, there's a lot more spark of things that are coming out that are unexpected. I love the word unexpected. I'm very repetitive with my favorite words, but
How did you cultivate that ability? Because that again is a challenging thing to do. People don't normally butt up against worlds that aren't like theirs. They tend to stay in the same circles.
Yeah, I think that's boring.
I agree.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah. I love learning from other people and seeing different, how else to experience the world.
I feel like it happens when you are, well, at least in my experience, my family was definitely outside of the normal. So already we're like separate from other people. And then we're like, oh, well, that's interesting.
Was that because your
there are
dad ran a
probably other
business?
people.
Or?
Well, my dad ran a business. We had a large family. We're homeschooled. Like a lot of different things
religious.
happening. We were religious.
No worries.
So already like you're seeing the world from an outsider perspective,
Gotcha.
and then you're saying, oh, there's probably other outsiders' perspectives. And then also traveling, I think, really helps. Saying like, oh, like you don't have to live the way that we live. You can live, a myriad of ways and have like very, very interesting lives and things that we can learn from. So I think there's just like a lot of elements coming in, and also like the sameness is boring.
I think here's an interesting question. Then you've said that he's good at things that he doesn't think he's good at. And you said she's good at things that she doesn't think she's good at. What is Margaux's superpower, do you believe?
There's
Choose
a lot
your
of
words
them.
wisely.
Top three. Don't care the order. List a couple.
I mean, I think being never-endingly interested in the small things.
Relentless. Yeah.
And
Interesting.
with that comes just like a spark to life and like an excitement for getting up in the morning and an excitement for trying out new things and maybe not knowing how things are going to end in the end, but just like going in, head first. So I think like Peg and Awl would not exist without Margaux. I was the one that was dragging my feet. Like, like I have a job. I'm working with my dad. It's fulfilling. But Margaux was like, no, let's try this new thing. Like, let's see what happens. So she also, that leads into another one, seeing the potential in people is a huge superpower, I think. Of Margaux.
Yeah.
But I think it's, and also being able to encourage people to push past their comfort zone.
Get kind of like past their own fears or misconceptions of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like a good coach.
There are more, but.
Like a good coach.
I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Margaux, what are some of Walter's superpowers? The top ones that come right to mind?
Oh gosh, how to distill it. Walter's very systematic, and we'll sit down and learn before jumping in. We can be very different about things. So he will, like, we're trying to decide whether or not to turn a pond on our land into a swimming pond, or what to do with it. And so for the last week, he suddenly got the bug, which this happens all the time. He has been a pond guy.
Right.
It's crazy. He just digs into everything. He has has a big map out on the kitchen table, and he's drawing, possibilities for the pond and the deck and just all the different things. So he will go into something and really read and listen, and he'll fall asleep listening to like pond stuff.
Got to take it all in.
Yeah, totally.
He takes it all in and then responds. Wow. So he takes the time to absorb it before speaking, whereas I feel like I'm like, blah, 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 So it's really interesting in contrast. So this is where we sometimes get on each other about our differences, but also appreciate the differences.
Right.
So I feel like whereas he thinks he isn't a good teacher, well, you said it before. Anybody who comes through Peg and Awl and who goes through the process of working with Walter leaves, and people have said it, like better people with these skills that they wouldn't get from an institution. So yeah, a great teacher. Yeah.
There's a difference in learning from someone who cares than someone who's just teaching because. Like, you go to a school and they're like, all right, this is the curriculum. This is what we're doing. You go into your shop and this is what I put my heart into.
Yeah.
This is my soul right here. Like that is a huge difference between this is the curriculum and this is what I love. So that I'm sure comes through when you're showing someone like, no, like when you touch it this way, it wants to be interacted with, like that kind of stuff.
I just see the double-edged sword and the side that I'm not as proud of. And just
I understand that very well. Like, I understand that very well. Like I can't
being a persnickety person,
Yeah, you can never not look at something and be like, but like everyone's like, oh my God, that's the most amazing thing. Yeah, but that one little spot over there that I could have done better. Like I could have sanded that a little bit smoother on that side.
But people like that. Like one of the things, this guy Kevin who worked with us, who is a musician, when our business was in Philadelphia and we moved out to Westchester, I really didn't go to Philadelphia like at all. No. This was during the pandemic, and Walter's there. So I went when we were moving out. I'm just so fragmented of a story that we're not telling. When we decided to sell the building and move, I was there more often as we were doing things. And Kevin had made a lot of scout boxes, the plein air boxes that we make. And I had met him, but I was just talking to him, and he's like, I didn't even remember the specifics, but I was asking him about the experience in making them. And his face just lit up. And he went over, there were like 200, there were a lot of scouts. I think there were like 200 scouts on the wall, on the shelves. And he went over, he's like, where's the one? And he was like looking through, and he's like, there it is. And he opened it up, and there were like knots. You could see like that the wood was a tree, which sounds ridiculous, but of course these are the things that connect that are like, let me retrace because that doesn't sound that amazing. But so he found this knot, which was like a characteristic of a wood that he loved, and he was able to find it even though it wasn't in the front of the box; it was inside the box. So not only was he showing me the craftsmanship of these boxes, but like an element of the material that he loved that was different from the rest.
Right.
I think that's what I want to get to, because a lot of the things that we make, they're not going to be exactly the same. That the leather comes from animals that move around and swat at things and get scarred and scratched. So that's going to be different. And it's hand dyed and hand processed. The wood comes from sustainable and some of the stuff's old, most of the stuff's new now. But it's wood. It has branches. It has these things. And so to kind of celebrate these marks on the materials, so that we know that these were living. These are all sentient beings. We are disconnected from that. There are not a lot of our customers, but every now and then we get somebody who's like, this isn't what it
this
shows
is a
in the
defect,
web.
yeah.
This is a defect.
Yeah.
Right.
And to communicate that is really tricky. And overall, I'm going to simplify it, but for the people who can, like, we'll explain it, and 99 people out of 100 will be like, oh, thanks for explaining that to me. I love knowing that. The one person will be like, no, it's still a defect. What can you do for me? And I'll just say, we could accept your return because we might not be the business for you.
Yeah.
But why did I get on this train? Oh, with Kevin and what Walter's teaching people. I think that I feel like that's the thing. Like, you may not see that because you feel like you're so particular, but Kevin walked away not only feeling good about what he had done, which he didn't, he hadn't worked with wood before. Now he's making these extraordinary things. Then he's able to pull out of a wall of 200, like, this one distinct mark that he loves.
Yeah. He has an appreciation.
You made me think of it because you're like, and I think that's the thing. Like Walter will stop if he sees a nice grain in wood or he'll stop and highlight it. And when you put oil on it and it brings it to life, we're celebrating that.
Yeah.
It sounds so
You're
small.
giving living beings a new life. Like, things that were alive at some point now have a new life. And that was always the one thing that's what drove me to do the things that I did, was because I always was able to give something a different life and like take it from being, it wasn't going to turn into firewood or a scrap, and it was going to be like loved and appreciated by someone again for a very long time. And like, hey, even if it is, like you said, like a little box that has a really cool knot in the middle of it, to like, hey, look, you can open this box up and like, check this thing out. Like, to a person that realizes it, they're going to be like, whoa, like, look at that. Or the other person will be like, yeah, that looks like a knot.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not for you then. Like you said.
For sure. Yeah, and I think that point too is something that can be enjoyed for a long time. And I think that we've lost our ability to respect materials. These.
Well, we can get it on Amazon today.
I know. I mean, it's so funny. We see people say you can get that cheaper on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, you can't. But also,
this.
like, yeah, exactly. Like, let's have a conversation about this. I think we do not respect things that come from this earth at all anymore as a
I'm learning how to do lime plastering right now because we're redoing a room in our house, and so there's a guy that sells lime plaster out in Lancaster. So I was like, he's got a wealth of knowledge. I need to go talk to him. So I went out and he sat me down, and like, I didn't like expect him to actually go through all of the process, but he did. He sat there and he took
an hour and a half.
Yeah, of just like, okay, you gotta do it. And he was almost unselling his product because he knows that lime plaster is not like gypsum or Portland cement based plasters where it cures. Lime plaster is going to dry, and because of that, there's like a certain technique you have to do, and it takes time and patience and like. Yeah.
Who has that? Who is that? What is that?
and failure to get to know how to do it.
Right.
And so he's going through this process and constantly saying like, it may not turn out all right, or you may not be able to do it, and
You might not like the results.
Yeah. And I like, after he said it a couple times, he's like, I just said, it's like, there's a reason why I'm here. It's like, I'm not just anybody coming off the street. I know what I'm getting into. And that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy the process. I enjoy learning it, and having a challenge. And so we were able to then get past that and start talking, the actual, figuring out how to work with lime. Yeah.
That's wild.
It was
So
cool.
it sounds like...
But that's not for everybody.
No,
I think that's
it's
what
not.
Yeah.
Margaux was saying, yeah.
And that's the beauty in this whole conversation. But it sounds like you learn from doing and you do from learning.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
I know I've generalized and shortened it up,
right,
but
right.
you hop in and learn how to get there because you're taking action and doing things. You know you want to do it, but you want to make sure that you're doing it in a systematic way that gets you to the end of your goal, is what it sounds like.
I think that's fair, but I want to add one more thing to it. Like, Walter will start here and end here, which is his goal. I will start here, and I don't know where I'm going to end up. So
Okay.
That's true.
But isn't that not the goal?
that's my goal.
Right.
We have different goals. I think that's what I want to say too. Yeah, we have different goals, and therefore different ways of.
And yet they overlap in the making of things.
I mean, I think that Peg and Awl's success, as Walter said, Peg and Awl wouldn't be here without me. I wouldn't be here without, of course, you either. I mean, I think the success of our business is in our really distinctly different and unique ways of approaching the world.
So let's talk about that. So And go with me here. What roles do you take in the business? Are you more like marketing and systems and make a few things and you do, or not systems, like marketing and writing and getting the word out, or we'll say, and telling people about it in your own way? Like, I wrote this thing today and that's interesting, so I'm going to share it. And maybe you don't necessarily do that part of it, but you have like the certain things that you build or certain things that you do that Walter does this, I do this, and then we blend here. Or
yeah, I want to say, and then you can answer better. When we first started out, we both did everything.
Yeah.
And then when things started getting really, and so I think that's important because I think we both have the ability to do a lot of the things.
Yep.
And then, one of us is better at the other thing than the other. Like, for example, Walter will write. He will do newsletters, and his writing is beautiful. And he'll take photographs, and his photographs are beautiful. But that's not what he does the majority of the time.
Got it.
So when he does it, it's special. And he needs to do it for something that's coming out. Okay.
I do need to do it.
But so then we did start to divide. Walter was way more the people person, hiring person, the one who was at the shop, whereas I was at home with, not that I was like only at home with the boys. We both do all of it. We did start to divide because we had to. We couldn't do it all.
Right.
So I do marketing. Well, I don't know what I do. I do nothing.
Product design.
You do too, though.
Yeah, for sure. That's a joint effort.
Yeah. What do I do?
This podcast is sponsored by Bare Knuckle Strength. If you're ready and willing to start getting rid of and or release your pain, one of the best ways that we have found to start doing that is self-myofascial release. We have created a program here at Bare Knuckle Strength. You can get that right now for free by going to www.bareknucklestrength.com/release. www.bareknucklestrength.com/RELEASE. Release. We look forward to seeing you on the inside. Be well.
What do I do?
You do all the stuff.
Journaling.
That's what. Yeah. I mean, I know I do stuff. I just don't know how to identify it. But Walter,
Yours is there's no physical product in the end, or many times there's not a physical product in the end. So and it's like the thinking work. You always say like it's hard to hire somebody for the thinking work because it's
the creative thinking.
creative stuff,
Yes.
right? And so in many ways that's the harder job. And no, for sure, because I think like for me, it's like we have a step-by-step process that we created, and just follow those steps, and you're going to end up with the result, the same result.
which for me that's the harder job because I joke around like and also we have other people that we're not talking about in our business that are so important that we should talk about. But I always joke around like the more the I don't know what to call you guys. The more these Kents. The more Walter and his sister and his siblings do something, the better they get at the thing. And for me, like I get better at a thing and then I just start to fall apart. So, so we all have different perspectives, but Walter's sister has been working with us for a long time, and Walter's two sisters and brother have been working with us for a long time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that kind of goes, like you asked about the origins of Peg and Awl. And
so it started as you two. Brought that forward. She's off the hook. Brought it forward. You started making some things. When did it get big enough that you needed more people to make things?
Oh, straight away.
Yeah, it was pretty much the first year we started hiring people. One of our first employees was my brother who works with my dad now. And he helped for a long time, actually. And then we started adding more people on. His friends, needed jobs. So they had just graduated from high school. So at the height of when we were working in the house, we probably had like 15 people working in the house.
Like coming in and out of there.
Coming in and out of the house. Working in the backyard.
And the boys like knew, like they were
we
part
had stuff everywhere.
Everywhere.
Okay.
The boys' room was off limits, and their bathroom, or like that upstairs bathroom. Those are the only rooms in the house that weren't used.
Right.
Because even the shipping was done on the third floor.
Very inefficient, but all of our stuff was made out in the backyard, brought all the way up to the third floor. It was packaged and then brought all the way back downstairs.
Interesting.
Yeah. And we would drive it all to the post office every day.
Right, on South Street.
Yeah, like 3:30. Like, we gotta get to the post office. Yeah,
get it out. Leave enough time for traffic.
How long did you guys stay in the house, or did you build out of the house? Like obviously you were probably there for a while, but how long was the business run there?
The business was run there for 2.5-ish years.
We got a huge. We did a lot of stuff for anthropology and for urban companies in the early years, but they were smaller things. And then at some point we had a huge order that Walter's dad was helping us out with as well. That we also were working with another company in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they placed the order and it had like a month lead time. And when I was doing the calculations, like this is actually like a year of work with the team that we have right now. So then we had to really figure out
Bring in
what
everybody.
we were gonna do.
But then, but with that, we have a photograph of the boys. We were making a lot of things, but one of the things were spice racks.
Yeah.
And so we have a photograph of the boys. The spice racks were stacked on the dining room table, which was now my desk, and the boys were as tall. Or Søren was as tall as the pile, or Silas was. So, but one of the companies that was helping us out with that had a CNC router. They worked in a casket factory in Philadelphia. So they were like, we're moving out.
Like,
We just got our own
we
building.
can fit your job in, but we're also moving at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
So then through that job, they end up like asking us if we wanted to take over their
lease,
space.
or their
lease.
space, yeah.
And so we moved in the casket factory for a few years. So I don't know timelines.
Yeah, we were in the casket factory for another like 5 years, something like that. Maybe four or 5
And
So
years.
it's from
bought
the
a
house
building.
to the casket factory.
Yeah.
Where we rented. And then we bought a building a few blocks away.
So that's kind of interesting. Before we get to your building, like working out of a casket factory, like, who does that?
pretty cool.
Like,
It was
like,
awesome.
There was a conveyor belt that would actually bring the caskets up. It was a 3-story building, and each story was a different part of the process. So there was the manufacturing part,
just move to the next,
Yeah, then
and-
the finishing part, and then the upholstery part, and then they would get brought back down through the conveyor belt. So it was a 3-story conveyor belt.
And our boys were, how old were they?
Silas was
2, 3, 4?
3 or 4. Yeah.
Was he that
Maybe,
young?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Box Trolls had come out.
Yeah, the movie Box Trolls had come out.
He like made a box. I mean, the working space is like amazing.
The
for
main
kids.
character is Fish,
Yeah.
who has
Yeah.
like a fish box
yeah.
or something.
So he
on it.
made him. Did he make the box? Or we helped
He and I
him, or
made
you
the
helped?
box, yeah.
So I mean, the boys were always on that conveyor belt, but we have a photograph of Silas with his box troll costume,
Yeah.
going up,
just riding.
Right. And there were trolley tracks. It was just such a cool place. I mean, we love old buildings. I love old, love old buildings and old
sure.
things.
Yeah.
So, and our landlord was great. He was great. He talked to us about when we were buying our new building. Like, it was just such a supportive.
Environment,
Philadelphia was
yeah.
great, right? It was so
It
great.
was,
The only thing
yeah.
that sucks about Philadelphia is the inefficiencies of the government and the trash and being, whatever.
different
It's a whole
conversation.
thing to unload. But it was really a great place to start a business, have a young family, to be able to do all this stuff, and really.
And I think time too is an
time
important
was-
part
yeah, it
because
was really
there were a
good.
lot of young families that were also starting businesses in the area that we were.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, a pretty nice environment with other people, other small
Yeah.
business owners.
Sure.
Okay, then we're in the casket factory, and then how did you find this building? Like somebody in your circle was like, "Yo, there's this building you should check
Yeah.
out," or
Now you did yoga.
Yeah, I was doing yoga with a bunch of guys that were also small business owners. And one of them was a realtor, and I just mentioned to him, I was like, I think we're gonna probably start looking to buy a building in the next year or so.
I got one listing for you.
Yeah.
We wanted it with land. That's same with the house that we lived in. We always wanted land, always wanted gardening space and outdoor space.
Yeah.
So we wanted with land. This was a really unusual building on an acre of land up against the tracks. So
Some defunct
that-
train tracks.
Yeah.
This
So-
is all in
Port
Northern
Richmond.
Liberty.
This is in Port
No,
Richmond.
gosh, this is in Port Richmond.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Where you could still find those things.
Yeah, it's getting
Exactly.
harder. now.
It's getting harder. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy how much has changed.
Right, and the building was sealed up for 30 some years.
There was a boat
Nothing was
inside.
going on.
There was a boat. There were all the
Yeah.
neighbors. So many
It
of the
was the
neighbors
neighborhood
stored their stuff.
File.
Junk
yeah.
shop. There was also, there's so many cool stories that we heard over the years, but there was like a cement slab with edges, and they would,
A curb, like maybe
Like
a
a curb.
12-inch curb or something.
and they would,
And on top of that was an old half dome
Like a
kind
can.
of
It looked
metal,
like a can.
corrugated metal structure. And that was a horse
horse
stable
stable,
for a
yeah.
while.
there's still horses. There were horses.
Yeah.
When we would get on the roof of our building, we would see horses in backyards.
Yeah.
It's a wild
Yeah,
west
there was
out there.
a motorcycle gang that lived across, or that had their place
course.
across the
In their
street.
The clubhouse.
And I was beekeeping for a little
Silas.
while there.
Wait.
Yes, I was.
So we did have gardens
Yeah.
there, and then
We
there
had
was
gardens and
Do everything.
So and they came over and they were asking about the bees, so we gave them some honey, and And so they started telling stories about the neighborhood. They've been there for years. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh yeah, where your bees are, that was a stable. Like I was a stable hand when I was a kid. And then when that was torn down, they would fill it up because it was about a 12-inch curb perimeter, the whole thing. They would fill it up with water in the winter and
Ice skate?
on it.
Ice skate. And in
And
the
then in
summer,
the summer, it was just a little pool for them.
Waiting
Multi-pools.
purpose.
yeah, it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing how resourceful people can be.
Right. And then there was a train. At that point, there were no trains going on it because the next street down, the bridge had been torn down. But there were neighborhood kids that would, throw rocks and stuff at the train engineers as they're zooming by, and the train engineers had salt guns that would shoot. They'd shoot the kids with salt guns.
Sounds about
the
right.
tracks.
You little shit. Yeah. Wow.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, so many good stories.
Yeah.
So many bad stories too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Eventually we
So
had
you
to
were in the
move.
house till about 2012, 2013, the casket factory till like 2017-ish?
2016, I guess.
2016. When did you buy
Yeah,
the building?
2016.
2017.
We
Oh,
bought
so
it
you
in
had to
2016, and then I
renovate and do things.
renovated
Walter's
the
doing
whole
that,
thing.
yeah. Walter
so,
did it.
So 2017 is when we moved into the new building.
You did the whole renovation yourself?
One of the guys that was working with us helped me out.
Well, you oversaw it.
For the
and-
most part.
When we sold the building, Walter was super quiet. But what's the guy who comes in? The inspector.
The inspector.
Walter was
yeah.
really quiet, but the guy was like, "Wow." Like he just kept saying like the work was incredible. The work, and Walter
this.
thought if he said something that it would be, because he's not
Yeah.
supposed to do it, he'd get certified people. But and of course I'm in the background like, why did you say something?
Yeah.
And so
I'm
that's
just being quiet.
Walter's a very rules guy.
Being modest. I'm just being modest.
Not modest. He was afraid because he
Following
didn't
the
follow the
rules.
rules that
Yeah.
you
We had a wood furnace that we put in there to burn our wood scrap, and
And
it was
heat
a
up the
huge
place.
building. I mean, this one room was like I don't know 7,000 square feet,
Right.
30-foot
Tall
tall
ceilings.
ceilings, and that was one of the big things where we were like, how are we going to heat this space? Like, it's freezing cold. We don't have any money to like put in a huge heating system, so we bought a wood furnace, and installed it. And burning our wood scraps. And one day we're all there, like I think there were maybe 12 or 15 of us that were working, and it's loud in the shop, and everybody's kind of in their own world, like staying focused. So we all have headphones on, listening to podcasts or music or whatever it is. And we're, the wood furnace is just chugging along. And somebody outside saw smoke coming out of the building, and the chimney was behind, like the way the peaks were. You couldn't see the chimney, so they just thought it was smoke coming from the building. They call the fire department, and the fire department is banging on the doors and the windows.
Nobody
and we all
hear it.
have headphones on, we
Everybody's
can't
like,
hear 'em. Yeah, and our shipping manager at the time, she was right next to a window, and she looks over and she sees a bunch of firemen out there, dressed in full garb with axes and everything,
Ready to go.
And so she pulls the door open, and they were like, we were a minute away from just knocking
Tearing
down
down
the
the door.
doors. Yeah, and coming in. So they come in, and fire trucks outside, and probably 30 firemen come in. They're checking everything, and I show them the wood furnace, and they're like, oh wow, you did a really good job with this. So that was it.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
See you later.
So can we get back to business then? We got a lot of orders to fill here.
Yeah.
Wild. Okay, so we're in the factory. You got it up and running.
Yeah, that was a huge kind of evolution for our business, where we were, focused on a lot of art stuff, and it was more about like Margaux and my conversation with our creative lives in the beginning, and then when we started growing, it was systems and hiring people and production and customer service,
filling the space.
and filling space. Having to come up with new products to keep people interested, and it really it kind of morphed into something that we had not really expected it to be. Partly wanting it, like excited to go along
To
that
try
ride.
it, yeah.
But after maybe what was it, like 4 years in the
And
in
it was
the
through the
big
pandemic.
building. Through the pandemic,
Which was really interesting.
yeah.
Because I think
It's like a different time. It seems
Yeah.
like it's so
it's a
like
totally different time. And
Yeah.
I think for us, I feel like it's not fair to, it's not always fair to say this, but for us, it was great. For our business, it was great. For our personal lives, it was great.
It was challenging for a lot of people.
It was, yeah. And I mean, I love change, even if it comes at like, what the fuck do we do now kind of change. So, but I remember, I'm kind of derailing a little.
It's okay.
But we had our meeting. Everybody was in different places. Walter's sister has like 1 million babies now. She works from home. Everybody was like, we were all on Zoom, and we were just like, okay, this thing's happening. Let's calculate least amount of money we need to make to pay everybody, pay our bills, and keep this thing afloat. And after that, let's just like do what we always wanted to do and never did. And one of the things was like bookbinding tutorials. We wanted to just film the bookbinding process and share it with the world. And Walter and Oliver were like, I don't think we should show people how we make things. Like, is that like the best business decision? And we're like, what do we have to lose? Like, this might be a sinking ship.
Right.
So that was one of the things that really like it turned out to be great. Like people loved the videos. They made books all the time. Then strangely, we sold more books than ever. So it was like weird. Like it just made things. It shifts your perspective. And it's like, how do I approach this thing? I also don't have a problem with being on a sinking ship. So that's like. That might be my superpower to me. Like it doesn't bother me thinking that something might go under and we just have to pick up again. Yeah. So why am I talking about this? Right, because the 4 years. So Walter was going. Walter and his sister more stuff that we shouldn't be doing.
We had to shut everything down because we were an essential business. So I kept going to work. And then my sister also kept going to work. And we were allowed to ship things. Anybody that was, an online business
like
could ship stuff.
We're not saying that we broke rules.
No.
Yeah, it was the 3 months of shutdown.
People did what they had to do to survive.
That's why I feel like he's like,
people did what they had to do.
Don't reveal too much.
It was like 15 to 20 of us down to 3 of us.
Working around the clock. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was. It was going to work at like 4 a.m. and coming home at 10 p.m. And
the
just
3 of them worked like crazy people.
Yeah.
So,
but
you liked it initially. Initially, it was like super fun because we're like, holy shit, sales are crazy.
Yeah.
They're able to keep up on their end. Ashley and I got to be more creative with the marketing. That really like helped us kind of flourish and like, let's just do what we've wanted to do because that seems to be the thing that's really connected with people.
And see what happens.
Completely. Yeah. So, but they, of course, like working like once things started,
but then everything opened back or started to open back up again, and everybody during that time is having this, epiphany or life change perspective.
Like
employees, yeah. So some employees were like, they came back for a week and like, no, I'm doing something else. So then our employee turnaround really, really changed, and I was training people, knowing that I was going to have to train somebody else to replace them in the next month.
Which had never happened in our business.
It never happened in our business
really
before.
Stayed.
And that was a grind, I think.
Sure.
Because at that point, it's like, it's trying to maintain something and then we started asking questions like, why are we trying to maintain this thing? Either we like really grow it beyond where it's just us always trying to chase the next problem, or try to like get back to the roots of what we started it for.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it didn't. It felt like it didn't feel like a digression, like going back to the roots.
No,
it felt like we had learned so much. We had worked with so many people. We had so much experience in that. I think the pandemic like really made it so that people experienced a ton. It was like a high educational, could have been, point. For small businesses, at least. So I feel like it was like a crash course. So I feel like we in finding our way back to our roots, we kind of found what mattered to us. We didn't go back to where we were, but we went back to the heart of what mattered to us. And those things, maybe this is like, goes back to your first question, like spending time with our boys was incredibly important. Being outside was incredibly important. Making new things was incredibly important. Selling stuff to people who wanted our stuff. And it wasn't just like, how much can we get out there? How can we fill these biggest orders?
Right.
How can we get into all these stores?
Finding your people.
Finding our people. Yeah. Really connecting with people. And Walter's pointed this out before, but as of 2016, we started making. We started by making art and making objects, and then we really started with the time that Walter's talking about. That we were just talking about. We really started just making and running a business, firing not so much, but yeah. It was just all business. And Philadelphia had like taxes wrong, so Walter was like navigating that for so long, learning about the freaking system there.
Yeah.
So there was so much, and we were like, this isn't really what we want to be doing. We want to make art. So anyway, we started making artists' tools. So we've always made our book. We've always made journals. We've always made like desk caddies, but we made things for the home a lot in the early days. It's like evolves as our lives evolve. We started making bags when we needed diaper bag for the boys. But we found ourselves in this next phase where we're making artist supplies. Right. So not only did it allow us. Well, first of all, the first thing, the Sendek artist roll, the first thing we made, we didn't think it was we were like, this is totally like like out of the realm of what we do, but we're lucky. We get to make things that we want to make because we have the equipment, we have the, the materials. So let's just make it. And if we don't sell it, we don't sell it. That's fine. But it ended up being our most popular product. And so it's the Sendak artist roll.
Sendak, yeah.
Got it.
That's
Yeah.
like the first thing that pops up on your website. When
It's right. And it's still like since 2016 has been, but it's so cool because we get to bring in new colors and make changes and stuff.
Sure.
But the thing is, we connect with artists all over the world.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And people who are using it up, people who might have to save up to get it, and they're going to hopefully repair it and use it for years. And so we're really connecting with these new things. So then it's like opening up the world where we are going back to how we started with making things for ourselves and doing art, but we're making things that support that, which we never saw, we never imagined in the beginning.
I mean, it's like the alchemist. I immediately thought of
Yeah.
it, where like he does this whole journey,
Yes.
and he comes back to the starting point where it's like the point is all of the stuff that you learn along the way, and then continuing that on.
Yeah.
So I think,
And it looks different from where you started.
Yeah.
Like it's the
Absolutely.
same point, but it's like you've come full circle, but it's not back to the same exact place.
yeah,
Right.
It's like a new layer that you
Yeah,
can keep
you're a new
moving on
person.
top of.
Right. Yeah, you're a new
back.
person.
Yeah.
Might be the same place, but you're a new person.
And you didn't, it sounds like you didn't get into business to like hire, fire, create systems
No.
to create a business. You got into business to make things that you really love, that you really wanted, that you needed, that other people have connected to now. And from that, it has built out into more than you saw it originally, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see anything.
Well, sure, no vision, but you knew you wanted to make things, and now it's gotten to the place where it's like, oh yeah, I did want to be here.
Yeah.
Like this is the way
Yeah.
for us. Okay, so we got through the pandemic in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I know we have the barn in Westchester and the house in Westchester. When did that journey start to? Okay, we're done here. Time to go there.
Yeah, so that was led mostly our personal lives. So the boys were going to a Philadelphia school, public school, and when we enrolled Søren in kindergarten, we knew that we wanted to homeschool at some point, but we just didn't really have the ability to do it at that point. So he went to kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third. He went all the way up to fifth grade.
Yeah.
In the public school, and then Silas was all the way up to second grade.
Well, he would have
and
been
then-
going into fifth?
He would have been
And he would
going
have
into
been going,
fifth.
and
Yeah,
Silas
that's
would have been
right.
going into second.
That's
Right.
So my sister just mentioned to us, she's like, I started homeschooling my kids, and there's a co-op out in Newtown Square
Right.
that you guys should check out. And it was on like a 20-some acre farm, and like hands-on learning, experiential learning, just the focus of what they were trying to instill in the kids was, just working on introspective stuff, working with other people, and then working with knowledge, and kind of combining all three of those things together to
There's
have
no
a fulfilling
curriculum.
life.
Yeah, there's no curriculum, so they start by just talking to the group and seeing like what they want to learn that year.
Yeah.
And it's unaccredited, so
Yeah.
it's just it was like
So it's
5
a
hours a
homeschool
day.
co-op.
Yeah, it's a homeschool co-op.
But really in line with how we how we see the world and how we work.
Yeah.
So we went out there, and
It was an open house.
Søren and Silas are more like me in this way, where the change is really scary. So we were there, and Søren was like, "Nope, not going here,
Someone
not
had his
doing
black
it."
hoodie.
Yeah.
His black hoodie on. His hood was up and pulled tight.
Yeah.
He was hanging from a
Being
railing.
secure.
Like,
Yeah.
nope, not doing
Not
it.
gonna do it.
Yeah, totally. But we enrolled them, and they started going that fall. And then with Margaux going out, from Philadelphia out to Newtown Square, dropping the boys off, and you stayed out there and would just either
putter
do
out,
work.
go to the woods.
Yeah, you go to the woods
Or
and
collect ticks.
collect ticks. So through that process, we were like, oh, maybe we should move out that way. And we found a house in Westchester that had like a barn, a falling apart barn at the time. And it was so far gone that they didn't even have it in
There
the
was a
pictures.
corner of it in the
listing.
picture, in the listing. And Walter's like,
Yeah.
Wait,
Is that
there's
a
a
barn?
building
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
This is it. Yeah. So he looks on Google and he's like looking at a map. And he's like, there is a barn on the property. So that was one of the first
It's
questions.
zoned out.
Right. And then there was a spring house, which was there was the people who lived there before. It was their building, the house, 2 ponds, woods. It was like
it
nuts.
just seems like
Some fantasy
way
land.
too much.
This
yeah.
was before the pandemic.
This was before
this
the
was-
pandemic. Yeah, this was
yeah.
2018.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we moved in we moved in just before Christmas, a few days before Christmas. They had turned off, there was a whole whatever. So they had turned off the heat and everything. And so I remember this.
So you bought the place before the pandemic.
We bought it before the pandemic, like a month.
But still work downtown.
So
Did you live out there?
I was driving into the city. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and then so at that point, Margaux you didn't go into the city at that point.
She was out at New Town Square.
Which felt really disconnected and really
Sure.
weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then, went through the whole pandemic that way, where Margaux worked from home, and I would go into the city.
When did you guys get rid of the building, or you sold it? Right? I say get rid of, but
2023.
Got it. Okay,
Like 2 years ago.
Came full circle.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, let's say we all sold our house, but that's a totally separate thing.
Yeah.
Totally separate business, separate whatever.
I mean, but even that
So
illustrates just like how our house in the city, we held on to it and we turned it into an
Airbnb.
but also like a living showroom for Peg and Awl
That
stuff.
was the idea.
So people could go and stay, and our whole furniture line was in
all
the
you
house.
guys.
All of our cutting boards,
Oh,
boards, all of our
that's
home
super
goods
creative.
stuff.
Yeah.
And
We're
the
there.
idea was to showcase like local everything. It's like local makers, local
businesses,
restaurants, all that kind of stuff. But then the pandemic hit.
Right. We
so-
opened it like the month before.
It was crazy. But then early on, this
Nobody
couple,
can travel.
It was, but it was so early on. This couple who lived in Philadelphia got married there.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
they invited like 8 people. It was featured in
Right, because
Philadelphia
the venue
Magazine.
shut down, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?"
Right.
We're scrambling around.
It was crazy. So
Yeah.
they booked our place. Featured in Philadelphia Magazine. So the house is going crazy. There are weddings happening throughout the pandemic at this house. I feel very lucky. It's
Yeah,
it's a
and like
short
people
story.
shot movies there, and
Yeah.
like, there was a
Neat.
documentary shot there, so
So-
it was used for
Super cool.
really
yeah,
interesting
just
things
really
that
interesting
we
things.
didn't
Yeah.
expect.
Other businesses, I mean, we did it in a Peg and Awl style, so it was like the detail was out of this world. So
Yeah.
then people wanted to use it for photo shoots
shoots,
for their
yeah.
businesses. Yeah, yeah,
It's crazy.
That's cool.
yeah.
It's totally crazy.
Do you
But
still,
then-
do you still have that house?
We didn't. We sold that too. I mean, I was at a point. I was at a point where I was feeling overwhelmed by all this stuff.
Pulled in all the directions.
So much
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, like the cleaning.
Sure.
The cleaning people at the Airbnb, like we went and stayed there once. I'm like, oh my gosh, these people did not clean. Like the tub caddy, all the things that were ours that we were showcasing were like tucked behind things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And there was like dirt in the corners. Anyway, I was like, I can't. I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
done with all this stuff.
Got it.
The more stuff you own and have, the more like spread out you are.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was ready to just sell everything and live in our little space. Walter
Yeah.
wasn't so ready, but
Yeah,
He was-
I was tired of cleaning up the trash in the alleyway.
oh my gosh, people would like the takeout and the trash.
Yeah.
The trash
It was
is insane.
crazy.
But Walter, at this point, like I don't think you felt you felt it all because he had been working like a dog for years, hiring and firing, like all that stuff that happened. But it was like blooming. The business was blooming. He's like, why would we shrink it? Like,
Yeah.
why would we?
It took me a while to come around.
Yeah, this again is like back to your starting point. I think that as we've told this story, there are people that we know and that we're friends with who, like, we just met these people that we met years ago. We just like revisited them in the Dominican Republic, and they're like, "So what happened?" Like, it seemed like you were
Yeah,
trying
because
to.
we met them 7 years ago,
Yeah.
and everything was just like
Yeah,
you know,
busy.
blossoming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're like,
Yeah.
what happened? And they were like, "Is this some kind of cover up for your business not working?" Because they're also small business people.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
like, no. Like the reality was the business was blooming,
It
and
worked.
it was too much business. It was too much work, and we just weren't like we were like two ships in the night.
Yeah.
It was just not. Yeah, it was just not working anymore. And so I was just like,
yeah.
I'm ready to sell it all again with change and being up for whatever. And I think Walter's a little bit like, what? We have amazing systems.
Right.
He's like
Yeah.
him and his siblings are incredible at writing these systems. So people, even though there were a lot of people coming and going, there were handbooks that were like meticulous and beautiful. So people can come in and just learn to make things.
Yeah.
So we had systems that like big businesses would have. And we're still, obviously we're still small. When I say blooming, we're a small business.
Right.
So, and we are always a small business, but it was just like beyond us. And again, what to your point, not what we had intended when we started out. So I think Walter was just like, wait a minute, like we were listening to these podcasts and it's like, isn't this the dream? Isn't this where business owners want to be? Where you just have this like flourishing business. We had space. How many square feet was the building?
20,000 square feet.
20,000 square feet. We had
Yeah.
in Philadelphia. People could picnic outside, eat fruit and vegetables.
And a storefront, right? Like,
yeah,
people could come
we had a
in and-
storefront. We had Walter would bring
Yeah,
home
everybody
like
had their own garden spot, so
Yeah.
all our employees had
we'd
their own
bring
little
home
plot.
paper
real?
bags
Yeah.
full of produce, like of fresh produce from
Yeah.
this. It was
One
a
guy just
flourishing
planted
business.
strawberries, and we had thousands of strawberries in the springtime. It was amazing.
It
Yeah.
was crazy. It was really so cool.
Yeah,
It was so cool.
Yeah.
And if we could have handed it over to people who could like manage the business, but that's one thing about our business. It's us. It's
Yeah.
like
Right.
You are the business.
We are the business.
It's
So
a representation of you.
It
Right.
is. So to have somebody else come in and train somebody how to make the scouts, like, is amazing that Kevin and that everybody else could make those things.
Right.
But like to have somebody else
Right.
teach
Do
that.
what you do is really, really hard. Yeah.
To outsource it. If
Yeah.
You will.
Yeah. And so I think that's the thing. Like we couldn't just, even if we had the wherewithal, we did have a few people want to buy the business.
I was going
Yeah.
to say, did you ever
Yeah.
get approached?
We did,
Yeah,
but then
we
people
did.
wanted
Bigger
us
business
just to
or other small
bigger
business?
businesses,
Oh,
like big
interesting.
businesses, and then they will tell you that off the thing. But
worries,
then
no worries.
after that, they wanted to keep us on.
Like
We're
to
like,
Yeah,
consult,
usually happens,
if you
yeah.
will.
no, be employees for like 6 years
Oh,
or whatever.
yeah,
And we're
yeah.
like, holy
Did
shit,
like a
this is
transition
not,
time.
Yeah,
Yep,
no,
yep.
this
Yeah.
is not what we signed up for.
Yeah, and also we like when we were our accountant was like trying to push us in that direction. We're just saying like explore it at least.
Yeah.
When we told them that we wanted to downsize the business, sell the building, bring it all to Westchester, and he's like, "There's a lot of value that you're losing by doing that. Like maybe you could start a new venture, in Westchester and give up Peg and Awl." But I think what we realized was that Peg and Awl is like an outlet for us to be able to explore anything we want to explore, and that was more valuable to us than the monetary value.
Yeah.
When did you come to that conclusion? Because it seems like maybe you were the last one to be ready to get out of that.
I definitely
that's
was. I mean, it's probably several years. I think when we bought the building and then when we moved to Westchester, almost a year after, a lot of stuff happened real quick. I think that's when you were disconnected.
Yeah.
And we had just bought a building, and I had just renovated, a 20,000
Done it.
square
This- yeah, well, that's
building.
right here.
So I'm in it. I'm
Sure,
invested.
you were invested,
Yeah.
right?
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just
And
did.
it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was, and we had so many, like, we did have a storefront, but it wasn't really officially opened as that because of the pandemic.
Got it.
So we had so many things that we'd started that we didn't see through. We wanted to have events there.
Yeah.
And we still, like, there's still times when we're like, did we make the right decision? We go back and like I feel my heart pounding a little bit as I'm thinking about it. But then we smell it. We smell the area and we're like, oh man, it's filthy.
Right.
I'd much rather be picking up plants than
Right.
shit.
Fair enough.
Hey, that's
Yeah.
needles and all
Human-
kinds of other
yeah,
things.
exactly, exactly.
You
It
know,
was-
that's
it was- yeah.
a display of human indecency that not everybody is privy to.
Yeah. And that stuff got really dark.
It's heavy, sure.
It really was. And I think, I think that's the thing that's it's hard to, you make a decision and it's like, you could always have second thoughts, but
Of course.
it's hard to realize those little things that
Sure.
were the driving force.
Yeah.
Some of the driving force.
Some of it, sure.
So when did you?
I think as we reopened after the pandemic and training people, that really drained me. I think just like the turnover was insane. Yeah, and it became less of a something to wake up for and more of like I gotta go do this thing. Yeah,
You weren't creating
More of a
what you
chore
wanted.
than an
Yeah.
actual, like, I'm ready to go do
Yeah,
this thing. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
yeah. So I think that was the thing that really swayed me. And then you also.
I was done.
You were ready. I'm out.
done.
So
Yeah.
I was.
So then, when you guys got the barn, the house in Westchester, and then the barn, did that breathe some new life into you a little bit and give you another thing to renovate, but also like allow for that change to not feel so heavy because you could like systemize what you were doing there, if you will?
Change is really hard for me. So
Can you speak to that a
it
little?
Took a while. I feel like
Did you have a lot as a kid and it just was unsettling?
no, I didn't actually. It was a very stable home. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's why.
Very unchanging.
Very unchanging.
Very unchanged.
Yeah.
Okay.
that pattern
Yeah.
was grooved in well.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think. Margaux always says that I say no first to every single thing.
She knows you.
She knows it. Yeah. So yeah, I don't see that the future of something and put in the work now. I think even though I do, I don't see the potential, all of the potential.
You always put it in the
Yeah.
work. Yeah, that's.
You work towards it. Okay.
Yeah. I like doing the work. I don't see the potential. Yeah, of what it can turn into.
But so it's different, like what you're working on now.
Yeah, sure. So the barn, like both of those things were happening. The shop was humming and drumming and making stuff, and then we had bought the building and our house in Westchester, and then we were renovating the barn all simultaneously. And so I actually didn't do the barn. We hired a company to renovate
Which
the barn.
he didn't like the
I
idea.
did not like the idea.
Was that like handing off a baby?
Yeah.
It still is, but
Yeah, there's things in the barn that
Do
I
you go
would
back and
have
you're like,
done
I gotta
differently.
redo that? Like, yeah.
but there's so many projects.
There are so many,
that like
Yeah.
You got to pick and choose where you can
Yeah.
spend your time.
That's what I'm
especially with some
learning.
kids,
That's what I'm learning.
kids and a business and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Right.
You got to pick and choose.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So in a way, it actually worked out perfectly because we had this finished barn that we were using for just like our marketing meetings and product
Yoga.
development stuff, yoga. It was like a free space to do stuff in. And that allowed us to think, oh, maybe like we could bring everything over to the barn from Philadelphia, from the shop in Philadelphia. So because we had that empty space, it opened up the door to make that change.
Even though it was a very tiny, we're moving this big
Yeah, we went from
space into,
20,000
like, a
square
very
feet
tiny-
to like 2,500 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So-
quickly, because the people who bought, well, whatever, that's another whole story, but whatever, we had to do it so quick. So we just like dumped stuff and when
Yeah, we listed
Like got rid of
really,
machines
we
and things
listed
you
the-
weren't using.
so
We listed the
things
building
that we were
and
even using.
closed and were moved out, but in like 7 months, something like that. Yeah.
So we had all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's so much stuff to go through.
Did you have to like kind of liquidate and sell a bunch of it, or did you put
And some
it in
stuff we
storage?
just dumped off.
Or
We didn't really. We had a tiny. I hate storage. I hate storage units.
okay.
We had a tiny storage thing that we filled and then emptied pretty quickly.
Got it.
Yeah.
It was
It was a shipping container that we
Yeah.
just plopped down on a
Okay,
property
yeah, like a
in
pod
Westchester.
thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. We still have stuff around that we need to like clear out. Silas wants to build a gym in a
Good.
in
Yo,
our garage.
I know a consultant. Good. Well, okay, and we haven't really talked a lot about Silas. Silas, what's up? I got to meet Silas once, and so he's going back to school and doing wrestling and stuff, right? Like that's part of he wanted to go into
Lots
be
of
in a
sports.
school.
He's
and
exploring
he's exploring all the things, and
Yeah.
what kind of like let's just if you're okay with chatting about him a little bit and that like what why did he like I don't know if reject is the right word, but like, no, I don't want to be homeschooled anymore. Like, how did that come about?
That didn't completely happen. It was like a lot of the kids as they get older at Open Connections, the program they go to, they start to wonder what public school's like and other options. So it's like the conversation starts, but usually a little bit older. So Silas is amazing. He's so amazing at so many things. Like incredible artist. He's very much like Walter. He could pick up and just do things. He just jumps into stuff. Amazing conversationalist. He's just so good at so many things. But I feel like I'm going to throw him under the bus a little bit. He was just like watching television, and it was like heartbreaking for me.
The pandemic, I think, really influenced a lot of the homeschool kids.
Yeah.
Because
Got it.
all of their
A lot of
relationships
kids.
were put online. A lot of kids,
Yeah.
for sure.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then you get stuck in that rut, and then it just, it perpetuates.
Becomes a new pattern.
Yeah.
And it was like we had this land that he used to like, we've been there for 7 years now, which is crazy. He's 14, so he was 7. He would go around with nets, chasing creatures and, collecting leaves, falling into the pond. Like he would do all this stuff. And then he went to sitting in front of the television. It was one day it just was crushing. And I was like, I'm going to schedule an appointment to look at the middle school. He's like, no. He doesn't remember it this way. No. I don't want to do that yet. I want to start in high school. And I was like, it's not going to hurt. Let's just check it out. So we made an appointment. He walked in and the first teacher who saw him was like, soccer or football. And so I was like, what? Because the homeschool community, at least our group, like there's a lot of artists, a lot of makers, a lot of and
Scientists,
Not team sports.
Yeah. And the homeschool community is incredibly active, but it's not like team sports. It's
not
a really
competitive.
good, not competitive sports. So Silas was just like, oh my gosh,
These are my people.
I think
There's
also
a
like there's a
way,
world out there.
Can I do both? Soccer and football?
Yeah, right.
Right.
So he signed up and started in school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wild.
Which
And
was
he
amazing.
joined the soccer team.
He joined the soccer team, wrestling. it's pretty cool because there's so many amazing things that are happening, but he was still kind of trying to find his way. He was like the last year in middle school. He's this new kid, but we live in Westchester with like windy roads, hilly, no shoulder. And during the pandemic, we were all biking around there. And somebody almost killed both of the boys. I was in the back and I saw the car come, and I can't believe I didn't just die right there on the street. But this guy came so close. None of them saw it because I'm in the back. And I was like, we're never riding on these streets again. And so I feel like we don't limit too much, but I would not. He always wanted to go out and ride on his bike, and I was like, we can't. These streets are too dangerous. Especially that was during the pandemic when there was nobody on the roads. But that's probably why this guy had the freedom to be like, woo, woo. But anyway, so now Silas has a bunch of friends who bike all over. They bike into Westchester. They bike to the parks that we would drive to. They mountain bike. So it's amazing, and it's like I think for the first time we're experiencing kids who are just like taking off and going and playing, because even though we live in the suburbs, we live in a very kind of a little isolated area. So that's been amazing. It's been amazing.
Excellent.
And Søren, is he still being homeschooled, or he's at
or self-schooled?
Okay.
I want to think he's like
Self-schooled,
Søren
if
is
you will.
very very driven on his own, and he's doing. You should talk. I'm just
Please,
laughing
yeah.
out. Yeah, you share.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of different things. He took an animation course this year. He's really into computer or video game design. That's what he wants to study.
That's awesome, yeah.
So and that's kind of been a thread through most of his life. He started a board game, and he was developing a board game for a long time, kind of left that,
Years.
came back to it. And every one of his projects seemed to morph into the next project. So that map that you saw was him trying to work out some of his his characters and put them into settings, and then create a world around that.
Wild.
And then kind of build on top of that with stories and narratives, and eventually maybe that will turn into a video game. Who knows? But
Yeah.
so it all just kind of in Margaux's way just kind of meanders. But he gets up in the morning and forgets to eat and just goes and does his work.
Move.
And we ask him at 2 p.m. We're like,
Any
"Hey,
food
did you eat
today?"
anything?"
Yeah.
Nothing. I go
No,
for a
I'm
jog.
good. I'm good.
I've been busy.
Yeah.
I make
my
him do
thing.
squat. I'm like, we're doing squats, we're doing push-ups. He's been doing pull-ups, which I can't do. But
Yeah.
so he'll come down and hang from the bar and do pull-ups, and So
We're rock
we
climbing
have
now
to,
too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But he gets so. I mean, I love it. I love these, and I definitely did that. Where he's just so focused, he has no idea what time of day it is. But I'm
Yeah.
like, man, you gotta move.
Yeah.
That hits my heart, hearing that he wants to maybe study video games and things like that. I wrote a paper in like 7th or 8th grade. Me and my cousin, who's no longer with me, and my brother, both of them are gone. We used to play video games as a kid, and I wrote a paper. I was like, yeah, me and my cousin and my brother, we're going to make video games together. And I always thought that was going to be, and I wrote about that. And obviously that hasn't come to fruition. In fact, since they've been gone, I can't pick up the controller and do things like that. My nephews have asked me a few times, like, Uncle John, you want to play Madden or whatever? And I'm just like, you go ahead, guys. Like, it just it doesn't feel the same. And it kind of feels like that chapter got closed for me, if you will. So finding a different creative outlet for things was a different way for me. But anyway, enough about me. Okay, so the boys are doing really well. You have the business in Westchester. What would you like people to know that maybe they don't know about Peg and Awl, or something that nobody really ever asks you about?
I feel like you just asked me so much.
This is my
You dug
intense
out a lot,
curiosity, right? Showing you a little.
No, I made
bit.
it feel like you've dug up so much. I'm like, what
That's
else?
but like
what
you
we're
guys'
here for.
attention to detail.
Yeah.
That's
he
what
can
we're here
attest
for.
to this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I leave no stone unturned. Especially when I have
We
you
like
here for this
pebbles.
long, it's like I want anybody to know anything that you'd like to know,
How do you see it moving into the future?
if you see it.
How
at
about
all.
yeah,
Yeah.
at all? Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're just kind of puttering along right now.
Things are working good. And
Yeah, well, I don't mean puttering in a
Puttering
negative
sounds so
way.
slow. No,
Yeah,
I
not
found
a
it.
negative way, but just like
puttering forward.
following what we're curious about that day.
Maybe that's a
and-
good one. What are the things that you're curious about right now then?
Yeah.
That you find yourself wanting to learn more about other than ponds?
Lime plaster.
Lime plaster is a big thing right now. We're redoing some of our house, so I've just been totally into that as well. And
Walter took a class on dry stack.
Dry stack stone
Oh, yeah.
wall building. So I've been
walls
building a
and
ton
old
of
stuff.
stone walls around.
Well, I saw the stone wall around the barn. Did you do that?
Yeah,
one?
so I did that one. Yeah.
And around the sauna, he did that,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Well,
then built a sauna.
Okay, we can talk about that. So you guys are getting into wellness or whatever. You're starting to take care of yourself, showing your kids that that's important
Yeah,
too.
we're getting a little older.
Don't just make things all the time. Got to
I feel like getting into sounds really I feel like our lives have always been like
active.
have always been active.
Sure.
I feel
Okay,
like,
so that's not a right term, but you are
Yeah.
expanding your health
Definitely,
and wellness. How's
definitely.
that? Okay, so we have a
That's
sauna
fair.
and a cold tub. How did that come about? You asked for it. He wanted it. You asked for it. He built it. What happened?
I have no idea.
This is something we don't really talk. I had like a bunch of weird illnesses at once I'm not going to get too into it. But
That's
when
okay.
we moved into the barn, and I was like I was a slug. I didn't know like where I was. I just felt very disconnected from the world. And then I started to learn about a lot of things, including the illnesses, and just trying to undo it. So one of the things that is, and also this I'll talk about. My cousin encouraged me to do 23andMe test, and I saw that I have 2 genes for Alzheimer's.
Oh shit!
And that was huge because there's also things that's connected to that I don't want to talk about. But that was huge, and like I am very much the kind of person that's like I don't want to just like fall prey to this horrific possibility. And then I started. So this is where I did like get into wellness, where I started learning that there's so many things you could do to not
to prevent
that, which was crazy because I don't feel like I was necessarily in that world.
I mean, you've always been conscious of your life and how you live your life in respect to health. Like you're vegetarian
food,
and
sure.
Yeah, we're sorry, pescatarian, vegetarian at some point. So I think, but Margaux has also always taken her health into her own hands and said like, what can I do as the first step instead of saying like, oh, what can I put on top of it to fix the problem?
Right.
So I think that's really what led you down that path. And the sauna is one of the ways that you can do that. So I feel like that was
for brain health.
a natural.
Yeah.
That's the direct crossover to this place then, right? Because
Yeah.
like we said, sitting in a gym in a wellness facility. I don't look at it as a gym really. It's a studio or a wellness facility where we teach a lot more than just like I said, getting bigger biceps, which aren't bad. But so what have you learned out of going down that rabbit hole without talking about the things that you don't want to talk about? What good has come out of learning more about wellness for you?
Oh, well, I'm not a slug anymore.
Okay. And what things helped with that? Like if there was a couple things that you found, like, what was the first thing that you found that really helped?
It was so many things at once that I don't even know if I could identify. I know one of the things is like not eating sugar. I was a sugar fiend. When I had my shop here in Ambler, I would have Fun Dip for lunch. Fun Dip, and you know, like the white stick and the sugar, like my favorite, nerds favorite. Because I always thought, you know, I'm going to burn this stuff. I'm a hyperactive human being. This is going to just leave my system. Whatever. I was a sugar fiend.
Oh, that is a whole hole we could go down.
Crazy hole. So that's one of the things I stopped. I mean, so I've changed a lot of my eating. I really did not get enough protein in my life, like probably my entire life. So I'm like way more focused on that.
How did you come to that realization, though?
Listening to tons of podcasts.
And they told you that you weren't eating enough?
Then I got blood work. I got blood work done through Function Health.
Okay.
There we go. My blood sugar, or whatever it's called, glucose, whatever. What's that score?
A1C.
You're for diabetes, that one?
Yeah, it was
A1C?
100.
Oh.
100. No doctor said, Margaux, put a break on the nerds. I mean, I did. I wasn't even eating.
You just saw the number and was like,
I saw the numbers. Like, oh my gosh, I just heard on this podcast that that's pre-diabetic. Nobody's telling me this. That's crazy. And the thing is, where I wasn't eating tons of sugar, like for the past, I don't even know how long, 10 years. Like the last time I remember binging on sugar was when I was pregnant with Søren. We would get a pint of ice cream each and eat it. So I haven't.
That's a different mode.
But that's totally different mode. But still, I'm at 100. I was just talking to Katie the other day. Hers is like 72. I was like, what? She's eating 2 cookies that day. I'm like, but so I think my priming myself in my childhood eating just sugar, it was nuts. So it was like smoothie. Like we would have smoothies all the time, but with like mango and banana. So I'm not putting mango and banana in smoothies now, but like that kind of stuff. That's where it's like Walter's like I was always aware of what I was eating. I felt like I was, but I was having the highest sugariest stuff to like satisfy my sugar fiendishness. So the way I eat has changed incredibly. Now my favorite treat, it always changes, but is cottage cheese and dates blended into ice cream with some what's the
Cardamom?
word? What's cardamom on it? Oh my goodness. I just cannot get enough of it.
Nature's ice cream.
It's so good. So yeah, changing the way I eat. What else have I done?
The sauna and
the
cold
sauna.
plunge, I think, is a huge one.
Do you sleep and like?
Oh my
Sleep
gosh,
has
I've been
been-
working on sleep. I'm like, that used to be the I'll sleep when I'm dead person.
Of course, yeah.
And I would be
How was that
calm.
working? Yeah, I guess it wasn't.
I mean, well, this is the thing. I probably was not working. I'm definitely way more consistent.
Sure.
Definitely way more consistent. But I cannot get to 7 hours. I very rarely get to 7 hours of sleep.
Okay. You think it's just like a natural thing? Like you were
I
always
think
that?
it is. My
Okay.
dad's like that too.
Some people
I
are.
wake up
Yeah.
every morning, and I would love to be part of a sleep study. I wake up every morning, and I'm like ready to go. Love the world. Can't wait to start.
What?
And yeah, like every day. And now in the evening, I'm like, everything I'm doing sucks. What's the point of this? And then I wake up, recharged again. So I feel like I'm getting enough sleep. My REM and my deep sleep are always over an hour, like more toward an hour and a half each. So I feel like I'm an efficient sleeper.
Okay.
But I don't know. But I have improved my sleep by I'm getting into bed between 10 and 11 every day.
And that just did not happen before. Margaret would stay up until 2, 3 a.m.
Yeah. And get up at
Working on
6,
something.
and no matter
Yeah.
what, like I was, yeah.
So
That's the biggest change.
That's a huge change. I forgot about it.
Yeah.
how does that show up in your work?
Yeah.
Like the things that you create, is it more focused, better concentrated? I don't know.
Yeah, like I've crawled out of that slugdom. I think all of these things are helping.
You
Yeah.
do feel like you've lost a lot of time that you used to have.
I had so much
Which
time.
you did.
I had so much time.
Yeah.
That might be why I'm so frazzled now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've lost like a half a day.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a bummer.
Do you find yourself getting more into the wellness practices or not yet? Or
Yeah, not as much, or it's rubbing off on me.
There you go.
So
osmosis?
just by
Yeah.
being near Margaux, yes.
Sure.
But I've never had an issue with sleeping, long periods of time.
Okay. All right. Got it.
I've slept while marching before.
That's
Yeah, and also I feel like I've orchestrated my life to be an active life. So, not that I actually have never been a gym goer, but I've always had an active life.
Sure.
Just in what I do.
Make
So
big muscles.
that is the way that was the gym 100 years
Right,
ago
right,
was
right.
Yeah.
making things and doing
Yeah.
stuff and being in the yard. And
Moving wood around.
This is
picking up
only in the last
piles,
50,
Yeah.
60
stone
years
walls,
Right,
like-
right.
this is
Yeah.
necessary.
Right. And it's crazy.
It is kind of crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah. And that's like part of how, like, see how this connects everybody. First of all, the first thing I heard there that made the most sense was you should all be listening to more podcasts, especially this one. They teach you so much. Listen to everything we say and just do it, and you'll be better. And then you'll be able to make the creative things that you want in your life, right? That's what I heard there.
Step one.
All right. Step one. Now, step 2, wash it off. All right. So we have, could I ask more? Sure. Is there anything else before I ask like a final question? Is there anything else you guys want to say that I haven't asked?
I just want to say thank you for this
Oh
opportunity.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
I
Yeah.
think it's not something that I would naturally tend towards.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when you offered the invitation, it was something that we both wanted to do.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So
Yeah, I
thank you
second
guys so
that.
much for coming
Yeah,
out.
thanks for
Yeah.
making the trip.
Yeah.
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 Not everybody wants to sit here and kind of, we'll say, reveal themselves, especially artists. Like, it's just, you'd rather be going making things and doing stuff. And I sincerely appreciate that. The fact that you guys would take time out of your day to come and do this means everything to me. Do you have any final questions, Jeremy, or anything you'd like to
No,
to help bring in
I
for
think
a
we
landing?
covered a lot, and
did.
like, these guys are very,
cover a
very
lot.
forthcoming
Yeah,
with their stuff.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like we didn't even really have to pull a lot of stuff.
No,
it just
just
kind
led
of
to the
came out.
next, to the
Yeah,
next, to the next.
I don't know, John,
Absolutely.
you're very good at orchestrating, like creating a map.
Yeah.
That was helpful.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm good at listening, so I'm picking up what you say and understanding. But like, I love stories, right? So like making things stories that matter. I wanted this to make sense, but also like have a point for if anybody's going to listen to it,
Right.
which is why I started with that question, to make sure that like we do the best that we can for people to really understand what Peg and Awl is, and maybe not necessarily where you see it going, but why it keeps going. Right? And it sounds like you guys have now gotten to this place where it's like you love making things. You've gotten back to the reason that you make things, and it's in a way, in a style that facilitates the life that you want to live.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Walter, if there was, and this could be for me, but for anybody, if there was like a first step that anybody wanting to make, not just a cabinet, but like you're the systems guy, what's the way that you, like if it was your kids or somebody in front of you, that what's a step that they could take to start becoming more comfortable doing uncomfortable things? Like, sounds like you, when you make things, that can be uncomfortable, but the system around it allows you to move forward with it. What's a first step for somebody that way?
I feel like I approach something by thinking, how do I know what to do when I don't know what to do? So if you think of it that way, and it really breaks it down to its simplest form, and saying if I can get to the fundamentals, if I can understand those fundamentals, then I can start building on top of that. And when I get to those circumstances where I have no idea what to do, it's like, well, just fall back on the fundamentals of what you're doing. So whatever the thing is that you're doing, you should master the fundamentals of that thing. And that just comes with time and repetition.
You hear that? Repetition and time.
Put your reps in.
Margaux, we're going to finish with you. For somebody who isn't system driven and who does like change, which doesn't seem to be normal, what's the first step that you would offer somebody who doesn't want to do systems and they are very creative and they want to put form to it, right? So to be able to create a life where they get to keep creating and changing.
Oh, gosh.
I know. You're welcome.
I feel like the first thing is I love daily, what do you call them? Doings? Daily. I love doing things every day. So like I wake up in the morning, habits, thank you. I wake up in the morning, every morning, and journal.
Get right to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also do other kind of art things, and they change all the time, but maybe I'm going to, for a few years, I journaled with the journal and drew with my left hand. Now I'm doing like little Tetra Pak prints. So I will find a new kind of adventure, a new kind of process, and I'll really get into it. So where Walter sets up this foundation of fundamentals, I just jump in. I'm like, if I do it every day, I will gain something.
Got it.
So by the end of right now I'm in a 100-day project. By the end of the 100-day project, it will have structure. I have no idea what it is on day 1, day 2, day 3. Yeah. Probably by day 50, which I just reached. Okay. I still don't really know what it is. Yeah. But sticking with the thing, it's more repetition, right?
So write it down and have stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah. And what is the phrase? I can't think. Little steps.
Oh, inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. Something like that.
I mean, that's a good one. I feel like there's so many where it's like,
so if you have one, put it in the comments.
Yes, that'd be amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like little by little becomes a lot. Something like that. Little by little becomes a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great place to land. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Everybody else, be well. Peace.
Cheers.
Hour and 52. Holy shit. Whoa! Thank you for making it this far in our podcast. I am not okay, and that's why I created www.iamnotok.com. It's a space where we can go to be seen, to be heard, and to not be judged. Everybody needs that. Everybody wants that. Here is our opportunity to have that. If you are ready to have your story heard, please go to www.iamnotok.com/contact, CONTACT, and fill out our form to sit right here across from me as a guest on our podcast. And if you're not ready to be a guest and tell your story live, but you are ready to start telling the truth, even if just to yourself, then please grab our free Speaking Your Truth guide, www.iamnotok.com. iamnotok.com/truth. We look forward to seeing you on the inside. Be well.